In space, time has no meaning. But on Earth, time is important. That's why HP created the new HP Compact NX6110, a true wireless PC with an optional extra travel battery that gives you more than 9 hours of mobile work. The new HP formula doubles your business freedom and flexibility. Get your HP Compact NX6110, powered by Intel Centrino mobile technology.
Here at Slim's, there are many ways to stay in shape, like playing squash, aerobics, and spinning. But the best way of all is with new Tropical Delight. The smoothest way to stay in shape. Shark-like.
There are no half measures here. That's why Standard Bank remains 101% South African.
To a new level of excitement. Passion on the road. Rio. Kia, the power to surprise.
It is a technological leap, yet beautifully sleek. Invent magazine says it boasts a balance of sophistication and style, function and form. It can take you everywhere, and you can take it anywhere. And just in case you do, you might want it insured.
Introducing car insurance that'll cover more than just your car. Santam Multimotor. To find out why it's so affordable, speak to your broker or call 0860 726 826.
Ancient Egyptians were known as master mathematicians and astronomers. In January 2006, we get to find out if their modern-day descendants are master tacticians in the African Cup of Nations 2006 soccer tournament held in Egypt. Catch the live draw this Thursday night at 5 to 11, only on SABC 1, and see if you can calculate who the winner will be.
Oh my God!
Look, how important is this story, really?
Tomorrow on 3, at 7:30, stylish fashions in top billing. Then at 8:31, Catherine is attacked in CSI. And at 9:30, Lionel pretends to be a doctor in Sorted. Incomparable entertainment on 3.
There's some changes to the Friday lineup that require an early warning as New Zealand kick off, I suppose, the official leg of their tour to South Africa with the first ever International Pro 20 Series game. 20 overs apiece makes for explosive action between 7:30 and 10:30. This, of course, means all primetime programming falls away, except for our Friday feature, the classic Stakeouts, going out at 10:30. starring Richard Dreyfuss and Emilio Estevez as detectives hot on the heels of Aidan Quinn's devious convict. Time now to join local investigators hunting a killer who is all too real in solving it.
You are about to witness a true South African crime story. Only the names of witnesses have been changed for their own protection. All reenactments are based on the original police dockets and testimonies by the individuals who were directly involved in the crime or in the solving of the crime. Family held hostage for entire day. 2 women repeatedly raped. Elderly man cruelly beaten. Brutal multiple murders. These headlines would be horrific even if applied to different people and different events. But in this case, they are descriptions of one horrific ordeal suffered by a family in the course of one day. On the 8th of February 2004, the lives of an entire family were to be brutally and cruelly extinguished.
We received a call from the police in Alex informing us that they found 2 vehicles, one a Jetta and a blue Bantam Bakkie. On the Jetta was blood on the door, right inside door, and on the front, the bumper. There was also smears of human excretions on the sides and on the front of the car.
Members of the SABC forensic department were dispatched to the scene in order to do forensic photography of the vehicles, as well as to collect samples of blood and feces, and to examine the vehicles for any other clues as to what may have transpired. The cars were traced to 2 different addresses, both in Benoni. The one vehicle belonged to a private individual and the other was registered to a business.
And it was established that the Jetta belonged to Mrs. Gina van der Merwe, and the Ford Bantam Bakkie belonged to Legion Lock and Cable.
At almost exactly the same time as the cars were found in Alexandra, a man in the Loskop Dam area was on his way to work when he saw a woman's body and a vehicle down the embankment. He called the police. Forensic Specialist Superintendent Anton Crawford was one of the first policemen to arrive at the scene.
I saw the old lady lying in the grass. Her hands were bound with pieces of a tie and a belt. And she had a head wound. There was a lot of blood on her body. And then I walked down to the car, and on the back seat there was an old man. His head, he was bent over forward, and there was a lot of blood beneath his head. It looked like he had been shot through the head. And on the passenger side, on the left front, on the floor between the dash and the seat, there was a young lady. It looks like she was stashed beneath the dashboard. And she also had a head wound, I could establish at that time. I told the video man, Inspector Creer, follow me. And I walked down to the vehicle, then I saw there's a bullet hole in the boot. So I told him I'm going to open the boot slowly so that we can determine where that projectile is. And as I opened the boot, I looked down and I saw, but as a 4th guy, we didn't know about it. But I was really shocked, I can promise you that. And this guy was lying in a boot, and his hands and his feet were bound, and he had a bullet mark in his cheek, and there was another one in his chest.
Inspector Ainsley drew a sketch plan of the crime scene, as well as taking extensive photographs.
Die plan word saamgestel omrede op baie foto's kan jy nie al die punte van die toneel kan jy nie op die foto sien nie. So die plan gee oorsig van die hele toneel en waar elke bewysstuk gevind is.
The crime scene was riddled with bullets, projectiles and spent shells. Sergeant Moeng was in charge of the ballistic investigation.
At the scene there was a metallic grey Corsa with 2 bullet holes in it. There were cartridge cases, 2 cartridge cases found inside the vehicle, 5 bullets found inside the vehicle, and 5 cartridge cases were found outside the vehicle.
Sergeant Moeng's investigation involved the crime scene reconstruction, terminal ballistics, and bullet trajectory examination.
One is able to tell where the path of a bullet goes, whether a shot was fired from an alleged firing point, whether you'd be able still to find the direction of the shot. Terminal ballistics is the study of an effect of a bullet on its target or the effect of the target on the bullet itself. At the end of the day, basically it would then help in the scene reconstruction. Looking at the scene, with the 5 cartridge cases found outside the vehicle, one can ascertain that there were shots fired from outside. And looking inside the vehicle, one can also ascertain that shots were fired from within the vehicle.
As there was high-speed blood on the left-hand side of the car, it seemed that the victims could have either been shot at close range near the car, or blood could have splattered when the bodies made impact with the ground. The car found at the murder scene was traced through its registration number. It too belonged to an address in Benoni. The owner was a Mr. Darrell van der Merwe. These two seemingly unrelated crimes were about to be brought together into one horrific sequence of events.
The 9th of February 2004, Sonia van der Merwe contacted her brother Darrell just before 8 or somewhere around there to inquire as to where he was, and he was supposed to fetch her. She could not get hold of him on his cell phone. She tried contacting her parents, could not get hold of them. She drove personally to Legion Lock and Cable, that's the company that they own, and she found the employees standing outside and waiting at the gates, and Darrell did not pitch up.
So I dashed off to my folks' place. I saw Maria, our domestic worker, standing outside waiting to be let in. The front door was closed but not locked. The dogs were inside, the curtains were all drawn, the lights were on, and nothing at that stage looked too amiss. I dropped my bag and I ran through the house. I said to Maria to go and check the one side of the house, and I checked on the other side of my folks' bedroom. That was just a scene of chaos. There was items scattered all over the floor, all over the bedding. My dad's cupboard was open where the safe was, and the safe was open with everything missing.
Sonia then drove her brother's house.
As I was driving there, the phone rang, and one of the people that worked for me at the factory said to me that the police in Alex had just phoned, and they had found the bakkie, the work bakkie, covered in blood, and what was going on. I drove past Darrell's house. Everything was fine. I couldn't see anything amiss, so I turned around and I went back to my parents' house, where I then phoned the policeman from Alexander and said, but there's 4 people missing, and the bakkie now, obviously, that he told me I needed some help because I didn't know what was going on. A number of policemen descended on my parents' house. When I was showing some of the policemen through the house in the bedroom, showing them the ransacking and everything, we then got a phone call from the Alexandra police again saying that a gold Jetta had been found. I identified it as my mother's Jetta from the number plate and everything, and that too had blood smears and stains and marks all over it.
It was at that point that the 3 cases were to be conclusively brought together.
Get ready for history in the making right here in South Africa when our boys take on New Zealand in the first ever International Pro 20 match, brought to you by Standard Bank and SABC Sport.
Makaya has been there and done it for EP. And when you know you only have 20 overs to score runs, how many dot balls are you going to let the bowler have? You've seen the local teams at it. Now, catch a Standard Bank Pro 20 international match between South Africa and New Zealand. Friday, 21 October, 7:30 p.m. at the Wanderers in Joburg. For the love of the game! For the love of the game!
There are no half measures here. That's why Standard Bank remains 101% South African.
When you're severely ill or disabled and can't work, make sure you've got green light cover from Old Mutual. It protects your income and pays out exactly what it promises. No excuses.
Come
Contact your Old Mutual personal financial advisor or broker. Old Mutual, simple solutions for success.
I'm a big kid, look what I can do. I can wear big kid pants too.
Huggies Pull-Ups training pants are just like big kid underwear. They go down and up real easy and have built-in indicators that disappear when wet. The perfect tool for potty training in a range of great new Disney designs for girls and boys.
Mommy, wow! I'm a big kid now.
A cell phone had been found lying at the scene of the murders. It suddenly rang.
And I couldn't remember what was the number on it, but then I answered the phone.
I actually got such a fright that I handed it immediately to one of the policemen standing next to me. He took the call, and it turned out that it was a policeman, a superintendent from the Loskop Dam area.
Sonia informed the police that her brother and his wife were also missing. They asked for the address and went there immediately. As they entered Darryl van der Merwe's house, they were faced with a scene of total chaos. The house had been ransacked, and remnants of food, cigarettes, and alcohol bottles were strewn all over. The rooms were in total disarray, with blood and human feces covering areas of the floors, walls, and bedding.
We did find a map, a hand-drawn map, in the house, and Sonia van der Merwe confirmed that the map was an exact replica of her parents' home, and it was done in her brother's and her parents' handwriting.
It was at this time that notification regarding the vehicle that had been found near the Loskop Dam area was received. Sonia van der Merwe confirmed that the vehicle belonged to her sister-in-law, Melissa van der Merwe. Sonia's most dreaded nightmare unfolded as she was told about the 4 bodies found along with the vehicle.
One of the policemen received a phone call. I could see by his demeanor that it was something serious. He then told me that, from the photos I'd given them and all the information, 4 bodies had been found at the Loskop Dam area, and that it looked like it was my entire family.
All that was left to definitively tie these 3 diverse crime scenes together was for the bodies to be identified. That which Ms. van der Merwe dreaded most was confirmed. The bodies found at the Loskop Dam were those of her parents, her brother, and her sister-in-law. The investigation of the houses began in earnest. Items of clothing, liquor bottles, ties, cigarette butts, bedding, and hair samples were bagged and sent for forensic testing. It was also strange that there was feces on the floors and bedding and around the toilet. This was noted in the photographic report compiled.
At the scene of Darryl's house, it seemed the people were tortured, there was blood, there was feces smeared on the walls, on the floor, the bed sheets were soiled.
Concurrently to this, Sergeant Moeng, the ballistics expert who had been at the scene where the bodies were recovered, continued her investigation.
Looking at the appearance of the wound, at times if it's a contact shot, there would be characteristics that you would see on the wound to say that this person was shot at close range. At times you're able to even say whether it's an exit or an entrance wound because of the blackening that you would find around the area.
During the post-mortem, Sergeant Moeng ascertained exactly how the victims had died.
3 of the bodies were still tied up when they were shot at. They all had multiple wounds on them, and 2 of the bodies had each a bullet that was retrieved from their bodies.
The pathology report confirmed what the police had suspected. The women had been raped more than once, and the men beaten repeatedly.
The bodies had been shot at the site where they were found. The bodies, the way they looked, looking at the bullet wounds and looking at the blood around that area, we were able to ascertain that they had been shot at the scene.
Sonia mentioned that the family had all gone out together the previous night, and her brother was helping an employee of theirs, Vincent Kubeka, to sell his car. Darryl had related how Vincent, the buyer Tabu, and another man had been at his house that morning. What seemed like an arbitrary piece of information at the time turned out to deliver the first major breakthrough. The investigation to apprehend the suspects began under Captain Marnie van Zyl.
Firstly, when we asked Sonia, we want to interrogate Vincent, she couldn't believe that he was involved. Inspector van der Westhuizen went to
the factory to interrogate Vincent.
He decided to search Vincent. Vincent was found carrying a gold cross with the name Darryl engraved. Sonja van der Merwe positively identified the cross as belonging to her brother. Vincent was taken in for further questioning.
We asked Sonja to draw up a list of the stolen things. Amongst it was TVs, a TV and CDs, 4 handguns and 2 shotguns.
Vincent denied any knowledge of where the guns were or of the murders. He admitted that he had been at the scene of a robbery. He stated that he knew where some of the missing items had been dropped off. Vincent was arrested and he immediately cooperated.
I couldn't believe it. I was shocked, I was stunned, I was horrified. This was a man that I'd known since he was 3 years old. I knew most of his family. His father had worked for my father for 20 years. This was somebody who was second in command in charge to my brother at the factory. He had a responsible position. He was such a part of our family, he was even invited to Darryl and Melissa's wedding.
He admitted that he was involved in the crime, although at first he insisted that he had no idea it was going to happen and that he was merely trying to sell his car to this Thabo, and Darryl had agreed to assist. He said at first that he was coerced into taking part once the crime was underway. He agreed to do a pointing out for the police. Vincent Kobeka told the police that there had been 3 others involved. Vincent spoke briefly of how the horror had unfolded. According to Vincent, he had arranged for a man called Clement Makua to buy his car. They were going to Darryl's house to get the papers. Clement brought his friend Themba Radebe, who was originally introduced as Thabo, and another man called Lucky came along.
And Vincent pressed the button, and Melissa answered, and she said, no, Darryl's not there, and they must wait. And they waited for Darryl to come back. Before they reached the house, they dropped off Lucky at the corner.
Darryl arrived at about 8:30 a.m. He opened the gate with the remote control. He drove in and told us to follow him. Darryl and Themba went next to the garage to talk. Clement and myself waited in the garage. Darryl went into the main house. I saw Clement taking a firearm. He breathed the firearm and told me and Darryl to lie on the floor. Themba took a big screwdriver out of the garage and went into the kitchen to look for Melissa.
Vincent called for Melissa, who replied that she was still getting dressed.
Melissa was sitting on the bed. Themba pointed with his finger across his mouth that we must keep quiet. Themba told her not to scream and he will not kill her.
Vincent stated that Themba then opened the gate for Lucky. They took Darryl and Vincent into Melissa's room, tied them up, and began to ransack.
They asked Darryl for the safe key. They opened the safe and they couldn't find money in the safe. And Vincent and Clement asked Darryl for his bank card and his PIN number, and they went to the bank and draw some money. While we interrogated Vincent, there were big holes in his whole story. How did the other people knew about the safe? And why didn't he escape when they went to the ATM? And for further interrogation, we asked him why didn't he press the panic button? Because he knew Darryl's house.
Themba took Melissa into the other room. He said she must call Darryl's parents and ask them to come to supper. The perpetrator spent the following 5 hours in an orgy of eating, drinking, ransacking, and terrorizing. An unsuspecting Mr. and Mrs. van der Merwe arrived at 6:30.
As they entered the kitchen, Clement was behind them with a firearm and Themba approached them from the front with a firearm.
Vincent's story grew in horror as he gave detailed accounts of how they then went to the parents' house and ransacked it. On their return, the torture of the victims intensified. Themba and Clement allegedly went to the kitchen and prepared 4 cups of coffee laced with rat poison.
The effects of the rat poison on them had caused them to have uncontrollable diarrhea. They had no control over their bowel movements, which explains the excretions, the human excretions in the house, on the carpets, the walls. It seemed as if the 4 people that had the rat poison were scurrying up and down towards the toilet, but couldn't make it to the toilet.
The 2 women were raped repeatedly by the men, and Darryl and his father beaten. Bizarrely, in the midst of these atrocities, one of the perpetrators considerately put out food for the 3 animals in the house.
Still
Still using cooking oil for frying or roasting? The revolutionary Stork Culinesse is a better and more convenient way. Compared to cooking oil, Stork Culinesse spatters less and never leaves nasty, greasy cleanups. Stork Culinesse seals in the moisture for juicier meals with natural color and taste. Whether it's a delicious breakfast or your favorite stir-fry, you'll love the results. You'll find it in the margarine fridge, not for the cooking oils. Stork Culinesse at your supermarket now. Brand power, helping you buy better.
Scared of your kitchen? Win one of 3 50,000 Rand kitchen makeovers or one of these fantastic prizes from Stork. All you have to do is buy one Stork Culinesse, one Stork Tremendous, send in your original till slip with the entry form and kiss your old kitchen goodbye.
Introducing Laser Storm, the world's first 3-in-1 cyclonic cleaning system. Laser Storm transforms from an upright to a portable to a stick vacuum, making it twice as fast, twice as quiet, and twice as light for a fraction of the cost.
Call 444-3344 now for the amazing Laser Storm at today's special TV offer of only $699.95. Also available at these stores and Homemark stores nationwide.
Are you hungry?
Hello.
There are no half measures here.
So, what part do you want?
That's why Standard Bank remains 101% South African.
I've been through different phases in my life. I've changed my look, but I've not changed who I am. And that's what this website is about. It's a monologue between me and those who are not afraid to express themselves. This website's not about ridiculing the monobrow. It's about celebrating it. If the eyes are the window to the soul, this is my balcony.
Who knows what you'll find when you're always online? Surf all you want for only 145 Rand per month. No more scary phone bills. Get MWeb ADSL. Call 08600 32000.
At about 11 that night, Temba apparently decided it was time to move. They loaded all the household goods onto Daryl's bakkie and packed Sonia's family into the Jetta and the Corsa. All the victims, though beaten, ill and bruised, were alive.
Clement drove the Jetta with Lucky. Temba drove the Corsa. I drove the Bantam. They said they were going somewhere else and I must wait for them at the robot near Whitefield. I fell asleep.
It later transpired that after 17 hours of torture, the 4 victims were driven 160 kilometers to Loskop Dam and shot repeatedly. Their bodies and the Corsa were left at the scene. The bakkie and the Jetta were dumped in Alex. Temba then took them home in his car. It was approximately 4:30 in the morning. At 7:45, Vincent arrived for work at Daryl and Sonia's factory. The investigating team now had to track down the 3 other perpetrators.
Vincent denied we knew where the people lived, the other accomplice lived, but he was willing to show us where the stolen stuff was.
Vincent said it was at a Sangoma's house, who was known to him as Beki. According to the Sangoma, he had no idea that there had been a robbery. He stated that on the 9th, at about 4 a.m., he was woken by Vincent Kubeka, who was driving a bakkie. Beki alleged that Vincent was going to come and stay with him, and he thought this was all his stuff. Beki agreed to help the police. He said that Temba owed him money for some moot he had given him. Beki called Temba and agreed to meet later that day. The police waited. When Temba arrived, he was arrested and searched. With stolen items found on his person and Vincent's statement implicating him, evidence was mounting against him. Temba agreed to testify in front of a magistrate. Just like Vincent, Temba played the innocent to make out that he was an unwitting accomplice. He did, however, complete the harrowing story.
Lauren and I chatted about the boxing. I realized something was wrong. I asked Clement in Zulu, why are they jumping around? He said, we are coming to rob this young man now.
Temba then continued the story by admitting he started to work with the others. He acknowledged that the victims were held hostage and terrorized over a period of about 15 hours.
With interrogation, Temba told us that Vincent was the organizer and he planned everything and he just went along and he was forced to rape with gunpoint the older lady.
Temba then mentioned that the stolen items had been moved from the Sangoma's house to an address in Kingsway. The police drove there. Some of the stolen items were indeed found. Outside in the yard, they discovered 4 guns barely hidden under plastic bags. These guns were those stolen from the victims. They were sent through to ballistics.
Now the objective was to link these firearms to the cartridge cases and the bullets. To do this, firstly, one starts by firing test shots. After that, you collect the test cartridge cases and test bullets. Then you compare these to the exhibit cartridge cases and exhibit bullets that are handed in. You do that by using the comparison microscope.
The results were an enormous breakthrough in the case. It was ascertained that 2 of the recovered firearms were indeed the murder weapons. The Van der Merwes had been killed with their own firearms. Shortly after their admissions, a contact gave the police a clue as to the whereabouts of the perpetrator known as Lucky. Lucky had a brother who lived in Hillbrow, and he said that Lucky stayed with him occasionally. The police waited for him to arrive. When he did, they arrested him. Under pressure, Lucky also made a statement. He said that none of what had happened was his idea, and he was drawn into the plan. He stated that he had driven with Vincent in the bakkie and had not even been present at the murders. The police then turned their attention to Clement. They decided to investigate his cell phone records.
He came across Clement's girlfriend, and he was in contact with the girlfriend. And we applied for a 205, and we picked up some signals in Komatipoort. And then we knew where he were.
Inspectors van der Westhuizen and Legratie drove up to the area where the signals had been picked up. They spoke to some contact, who mentioned that there was a stranger living in a house in the area. They went there in the middle of the night and found Clement. On March the 1st, Clement Makua, the last of the gang, was arrested. Like all the others, Clement stated that he had no idea what was going down until Temba pulled out a gun. Clement then also admitted to joining in the carnage. He explained how the convoy drove to the area of Loskop Dam. They stopped, moved the victims into one vehicle, and shot them. The report came back from forensics and confirmed much of what the perpetrators had told the police. There was definite proof of semen found not only on the female victims, but also on certain of the bedding and on tissue paper left scattered around. Blood samples were taken from all the perpetrators for DNA testing. It needed to be ascertained whether any of these men had been involved in the rapes. 2 of the perpetrators were implicated. On the 19th of October 2004, the 4 men were sentenced. It was not possible to ascertain who exactly had masterminded this plan, but it was certain that all 4 perpetrators had been present and had taken part in this day of hell. And so all the accused were charged with 4 counts of murder, 4 of attempted murder, kidnapping, theft, and illegal possession of a firearm. Clement and Lucky received the added charges of rape. They were all found guilty on all counts. This sentence brought to closure one of the most gruesome and shocking crimes the investigating team had dealt with. Sonja van der Merwe has only memories and horrific nightmares.
While Vincent was awaiting trial, he called me numerous times. Eventually, I decided to go and visit him in prison to see what he had to say. I thought perhaps that would help me understand. When I saw him, it was very strange for me because I thought I would hate him. I thought I'd want to leap across the counter and rip his head off and do to him what he'd done to my family. But I actually didn't feel anything. I felt indifferent. I sat there and I looked at him and I still saw the little boy that I'd always known. It was awful seeing him, but it was even more awful not feeling anything for him. I didn't feel hatred. I didn't feel anger. I felt absolutely nothing.
On 3 at 7:30, stylish fashions in top billing. Then at 8:31, Catherine is attacked in CSI. And at 9:30, Lionel pretends to be a doctor in Sorted. Incomparable entertainment on 3.
Good evening and a warm welcome to this Wednesday edition of the News at 10. Thank you very much for your time. The Irish Republican Army, some say it's a terrorist organisation, others say a revolutionary movement. Whatever your opinion, it's impossible to discount their role in peace building for Northern Ireland. Sinn Féin is the political wing of the IRA. Their leader is faced with the challenge of demobilising his troops whilst bringing Sinn Féin back to peace talks with Britain. Gerry Adams is that man, and tonight he speaks to us on the News at 10. But first, the headlines. The deposed Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein went on trial today. The defiant Hussein challenged the legitimacy of the Iraq Special Tribunal and refused to give his name to the court. The former Iraqi leader is accused of crimes against humanity. He's on trial along with 7 others who were once senior members of his regime. The charges against him include murder, torture and forced expulsion. Mr. Hussein has pleaded not guilty to the charges. The case has been adjourned until November 28th. Indian-controlled Kashmir was rocked by massive aftershocks today. The tremor that hit this morning measured 5.8 on the Richter scale. There were no immediate reports of deaths or injuries. Last Saturday, 1,300 people were killed when the region was hit by an earthquake. Another earthquake has also hit eastern Japan. That quake had a magnitude of 6.2 and was felt in Tokyo. No damage or injuries have been reported. Back home, Cape Judge President John Hlophe will not be probed for racism. Today, the parties involved in the alleged racist incident came to an agreement. Judge Hlophe has been accused of making racist remarks to a lawyer, Joshua Greef. Chief Justice Pius Langer says neither party wants to take action against the other. However, their respective versions of events have not been withdrawn. Judge Hlophe has denied making any racist comments. The case of voter Basson will not be retried. The National Prosecuting Authority, NPA, has decided not to pursue the matter against the biological weapons expert. In 2002, the Pretoria High Court acquitted Dr. Basson for controversial work he did in the apartheid era. He had been charged with 46 counts that include murder, drug trafficking, fraud and theft. The NPA took the case on appeal to the Bloemfontein-based Supreme Court of Appeal. It then won the appeal, but the NPA says under the Constitution, Dr. Basson cannot be tried twice for the same offence. The NPA has since closed the case of Dr. Wouter Basson. The Council for Quality Assurance, Amalusi, says the system for assessing the senior certificates are reassuring. Amalusi believe that different examination bodies have shown a commitment to adhere to stipulated regulations. However, the body says there's still some concerns. The gap between urban examination systems and the newly developed rural examination system is a major worry for them. More than 700,000 matric students are writing their senior certificate this year. And we wish them well. After the break, we speak to Gerry Adams, the leader of Sinn Féin. Stay tuned.
If only everything was made as well as an Amstel lager.
What does your car get up to when you're not around? With C-Track Secure's active GPS vehicle tracking, you'll know your car's every move.
The new Mazda 6 rocked the press. Visit our website and find out why.
For low prices narrowly escaped injury today after causing a stampede in Plumstead, after announcing that cash crusaders pay good money for your unwanted goods. When asked to comment, he replied, "My head is reeling to think we get paid for stuff we don't want."
Cash crusaders, good for cash and cash for good.
With new Danao 5 fruits, 5 vitamins, you can start your day with a perfect 10. Danao from Danone Clover. Try it.
Welcome back to the news at 10, only on SABC 3. South Korea has opened the first ever World Stem Cell Foundation. The research center is based at the National University of Seoul. The place will serve as the main center from which embryonic stem cells are provided. It will be used mainly by scientists from the United States and Great Britain. This is because stem cell research is restricted in these countries. Stem cells are a potential source of replacement tissue for people with a variety of ailments. The project will be led by Woo Suk-hwang. Last year, his team cloned 30 human embryos. In early 2005, the team also created Snuppy, the first dog to be cloned from adult cells. And Northern Ireland will achieve peace and freedom. That's the view of Gerry Adams, the leader of Sinn Féin. This organization is the political wing of the Irish Republican Army. In the past, the IRA has waged a brutal struggle for independence against British rule. That conflict has pitted Catholics fighting for sovereignty against Protestants who are loyal to Britain. 3 months ago, the IRA announced the end of its armed struggle. The visit of Gerry Adams to South Africa comes in the midst of a process to demilitarize the movement. Mr. Adams met President Thabo Mbeki in Tshwane today. President Mbeki then urged all parties in the Northern Ireland peace process to return to the negotiating table. Former politicians Cyril Ramaphosa and Rolf Meyer are key figures in efforts for peace in Northern Ireland. Gerry Adams, who is the leader of Sinn Féin, joins us now from our Pretoria studios. Mr. Gerry Adams, thank you very much for coming through to the news at 10 and a warm welcome to South Africa.
Thank you. I'm very, very pleased to be here.
All right, let's start with the obvious question. Why are you in the country? I know that Cyril Ramaphosa has been an arms monitor and a facilitator of the peace process, but broadly speaking, what's your visit about?
Well, we have a small delegation here. We're here as official guests of the government, and I'm just pleased to be given the opportunity to thank the government, to thank your president, to thank his predecessor, to thank all of the people within the ANC leadership and all the other people within the various political factions here who have encouraged and actively supported the search for peace and justice on the island of Ireland. I will have the opportunity to brief, and I have done so already, with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister Zuma. I've spoken to Minister Ronnie Casserole and give him a sense of what's happening back at home. And I'm addressing the Parliament tomorrow and will give people there a sense of what's happening. So,
all right, let's give the South African nation a sense of what's happening back on the island of Ireland. There's the decommissioning of the IRA, which has been a fundamental measure towards facilitating and fast-tracking the peace process. That's been endorsed by General de Chastelain. Does it mean that you're now opening the door for talks on devolution with the British government?
yes, well, we have been in talks with the British government. The IRA initiatives are aimed more at the unionists. And just to backtrack just for one moment, Ireland is a very, very small island. We're only just more than 5 million people. Our island is partitioned. The people in the south have self-government. The people in the north are under British jurisdiction. We who are Democrats want to see the entire island of Ireland with the right to self-govern. The Unionists want to see a continuation of the Union. The peace process is about trying to get an accommodation. The accommodation is the Good Friday Agreement. And the IRA's recent initiative, I think, as you quite correctly said, has fast-tracked the prospects of getting all of this in place quite quickly. And, you know, there's a huge challenge on us, and we can learn a lot from your experience, but there's also a huge challenge upon the British government and upon the unions.
But let's focus on the IRA a little bit, because that's really where the perception is created as to the sticking points around fast-tracking the Good Friday Agreement. What is Sinn Féin doing about organizations such as the real IRA? Although you're the political wing, people still think that the responsibilities of neutralizing the real IRA fall within your ambit.
Well, there's a responsibility on all politicians and all political leaders to deal with all of the armed groups. I mean, the largest armed group in the island of Ireland is the British Army. So there's clearly a responsibility of Mr. Blair to deal with that. The various little unionist paramilitary groups, and then you have this quite small, dangerous, I suppose, but without any popular support, this organisation which styles itself as the real IRA. And how we deal with all of these is we make politics work. At the moment, we don't have any political institutions in the north of Ireland, so politics isn't working. What the IRA have done is to make it possible for politics to work, and in a way, although I don't think this was the intention, have actually challenged the politicians to show political leadership. And what Sinn Féin wants to do is to join with the leaders of unionism and to build an entirely new political dispensation in the north of Ireland and through the Good Friday Agreement right across Ireland as a whole.
All right, as leader of Sinn Féin, I'm not going to be asking you about paramilitary groups that are linked to the unionists. I can only ask you about IRA and the splinter groups thereof.
Well, you can ask me any question you want.
Well, do you think that, you know, because the Democratic Unionists, Ian Paisley and that group of individuals have constantly said we do not want to talk to Gerry Adams and his people until he does something about the IRA, and the fact that the British government bought into that argument, is it co-option or is it really an indication of the severe threat that the IRA still poses?
Well, I don't think there's any threat to the process from the IRA. I mean, ye have been through this here. Did not talking work? Did alienating people, not giving people their rights, did apartheid work? I'm always surprised. I've come here a number of occasions since the end of apartheid. I haven't met one person yet in South Africa who's prepared to say they supported apartheid. So
but this is not about apartheid, Mr. Adams. This is about Northern Ireland. This is about engaging in a democratic process, a constitutional process of uniting Northern Ireland, of self-determination for Northern Ireland, and ensuring that people who continue to want to fight a war are neutralized, and you are in a position to do so. Are you doing so?
Well, I happen to know more about it with respect than you do, and I also have a mandate to do what I'm doing, and it might not be quite apartheid with the awfulness of the obscenity that was visited upon people here, but it is the denial of people's rights, and it is a system which is very, very unjust. Now, what I'm about doing and what the peace process, I think, has allowed to flow is the possibility of all of that happening. And from the Republican perspective, I think Republicans have taken imaginative initiatives. I mean, the IRA is no longer a part of the equation. So for those people who have genuine fears of the IRA, that fear has been removed, and fair enough, they may need a little space to absorb that. And for those people who use the IRA as an excuse for not moving, then that excuse has been moved. So what's the next step? The next step clearly has to be to see the political institutions put in place, to see Ian Paisley joining with us and others in governing the place. And there's no reason why that can't happen in the very short term.
Let's talk about that way forward. This particular British administration seems to have gone quite far and beyond in encouraging the idea of self-determination for Northern Ireland. Do you think that, given the history of how Britain has reneged on concessions given to the people in Northern Ireland, do you think this is a government to do business with, Tony Blair and New Labour?
Well, we have to do business with the government of the day. And in fairness to Mr. Blair, he's been far better than any of his predecessors. At the same time, there is a lack of confidence among Republicans and nationalists generally, for the reason you give, that the British government has reneged and has not fulfilled a number of its commitments. Now, I would expect between now and Christmas that it will do so. Certainly, I spoke to Mr. Blair quite recently, and he undertook to follow through on the obligations which his government has under the terms of the Good Friday Agreement. So we need to see beyond the rhetoric. We need to see the reality on our streets, and we need to see the reality in the places where it counts, which is in the areas of disadvantage, in the areas of inequality. And you know, I'm quite hopeful that Mr. Blair will deliver on those promises, and I have great confidence in ordinary people. I think that people all the time respond to the political conditions in which they live. If we change the political conditions from those in which conflict exists and which injustice is part of it, to one in which conflict ceases to be and which there can be justice and fairness, I think people will respond to that in a very, very positive way. I have no doubt about that whatsoever.
All right, Jerry Adams, we wish you the very best of luck to you and to the people of Northern Ireland. Thank you very much for your
time. Good luck to you too. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, we'll be back with the news at 10. That's after the break. Don't go away.
Get ready for history in the making right here in South Africa when our boys take on New Zealand in the first ever International Pro 20 match, brought to you by Standard Bank and SABC Sport.
The G4 from Zodiac. Proven Barracuda performance. Zodiac Barracuda, South Africa's preferred pool cleaner.
Well, I played indoor cricket for South African under-25s. I eat cricket, sleep cricket, drink cricket. My cricket is my life. We play cricket at a very competitive level, of course. So we've got to be 110% committed. So the same passion, the same vibe, the same spunk I have for my cricket, I take that back to work. My name's Dean Moodley, and I work in the sales department at Outsurance.
Good evening. Countries with exchange rates linked to the dollar must allow market forces to dictate. That's the word from Federal Reserve President Timothy Geithner. He says large external imbalances that show in the U.S. current account threaten the world economy. Meanwhile, the markets are trading higher in the United States, this despite Intel Corporation's disappointing revenue outlook, which raised concerns about slowing corporate profit growth. Intel stock declined 2.9%. At the same time, Motorola's third quarter earnings have risen on the back of strong sales of its mobile phones. Motorola's shares climbed 2.7% to $20.71. The Nasdaq's currently 8 points higher. U.S. crude oil futures for November delivery rose 19 cents. This as Hurricane Wilma strengthened to a catastrophic Category 5. The storm is now approaching western Cuba and Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. U.S. oil inventories data is expected to show a rise in crude supplies. Investors say the report is likely to show a drop in reserves of distillate fuels. On the corporate side, Seabot Holdings, the U.S.'s #2 commodities market operator, made its market debut today as shares skyrocketed more than 56% to $84.50. Also on the upside, JP Morgan's revenues topped Wall Street forecasts, pushing its shares up 0.7%, Dow currently 69 points firmer. Time now for a market update. The rand is steady. It's moving in line with the euro. The JSE ended sharply weaker, this on the back of weaker world markets. Gold's at $464 a fine ounce, platinum at $926, and the spot price of Brent crude is $58.22 a barrel. A broadband cross-border ICT network could soon be established in Africa. The network will connect Botswana, the DRC, Zambia and Malawi. It will be based at the proposed cable station in Dar es Salaam. The initiative is part of NEPAD's Information Communication Technology Infrastructure Program. The objective is to connect all African countries to a broadband terrestrial fiber optic network. Well, Dr. Henry Chesia is the Deputy Chairman of the NEPAD E-Africa Commission, and he joins us now from our Tshwane studios. Thank you very much, Dr. Chesia, for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about the commission. Established in 2001, what have you been doing since then?
Oh, we've been doing a few things. In addition to this broadband network, we are also working on schools, trying to install ICT equipment in schools and offering our young people the chance to train using ICT to improve their education and also to give them skills that they can use after they graduate from schools.
On a global scale, where does Africa stand in terms of ICT competitiveness?
Not very good, I'm afraid. We have a big job to do to bring ourselves to the stage where we could be regarded as being equivalent to the rest of the world.
Are we not rushing into complex issues? I mean, some people might say that poverty is more important, HIV/AIDS is more important, food security is more important. Why are we focusing on ICT?
Well, ICT actually helps us to deal with the issues of health, issues of poverty, issues of growth. So it's very important that we use this as a tool to enable us to get out of the predicament we are in the continent.
You've mentioned some of the things that you have been doing since 2001. In what way are they then following the development agenda and the assistance agenda that the continent needs to focus on?
Yes, we are quite a step with the agenda. Indeed, in the area of education, I think we are contributing through this NEPAD Schools initiative, which is now starting. We have started a few schools or schools in 4 countries. We expect that in the next year we'll have ICT training going on in 120 schools right across the continent.
On a higher level, in terms of the things like maintenance and things like knowledge of ICT, there's always the problem that the skills base on the continent isn't as high as in other areas. And as you said, we're not as high up in terms of competitiveness as we should be. Where are we getting the skills to help with what we're talking about here?
Well, we have to create the skills. I think that in terms of, say, teachers who teach our children, we have to train those teachers to train the kids. And in respect of what we need in the civil services of our countries, in terms of the ICT skills that are required to operate in commerce and in agriculture, in health, we will have to develop those. We can't assume that these will come from elsewhere. They have to come from our people. And so we have to create them.
And how is the progress being monitored, and how are you measuring whether or not you are meeting the development goals we were talking about?
Well, I mean, in terms of the availability of equipment, we can always count the equipment.
Yeah.
In terms of what we can do in relation to schools, we will know how many schools we will have achieved as the years go by. In terms of whether the children are benefiting,
only the future will tell. We must leave it there.
No, I think we have other ways of assessing that. Indeed, there is a monitoring and evaluation program that is going on in competent.
We must leave it there. Dr. Henry Chesia, Deputy Chairman of the NEPAD Africa Commission. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And that's it for tonight. News at 10 continues after the break. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.
I've been through different phases in my life. I've changed my look, but I've not changed who I am. And that's what this website is about. It's a monologue between me and those who are not afraid to express themselves. This website's not about ridiculing the monobrow. It's about celebrating it. If the eyes are the window to the soul, this is my balcony.
Who knows what you'll find when you're always online? Surf all you want for only 145 Rand per month. No more scary phone bills. Get MWeb ADSL. Call 08600 32000.
Triumph, guts, and glory. SABC is honoring our sportsmen and sportswomen at the annual SA Sports Awards. Catch it live on SABC 2, 24th November, 9 p.m. For the love of the game.
This is Lungi Mchadi. We see him learning new skills, setting new goals, landing a job and putting what he's learned to use. We see him starting a business of his own, working hard to grow it, and showing others what's possible. Microsoft Digital Villages have trained over 40,000 people. Find out more.
Welcome back. In your soccer news, Orlando Pirates have stretched their lead at the top of the PSL table. The Buccaneers defeated Morocco Swallows 1-0 at Ellis Park this evening. Here are the highlights.
He loses out rather sadly. Now suddenly Makanya pops up on the left-hand side of attack for Pirates. He should take on Gary McNabb, doesn't it?
And Itafia, obviously he picked them to it, got in front of them. That's what he did, changed direction of the ball. It's a great goal from Orlando Pirates and exactly what they wanted. What he did, he got into the near post. The ball that was played by Makanya floated inside the 18 area and it found...
Of course, then staying in soccer, a Coca-Cola Cup encounter, SuperSport United defeated Free State Stars 2-1 in Tshwane. And overseas soccer news, let's call it that. Manchester United winger Cristiano Ronaldo has been arrested for alleged rape. The 20-year-old Portuguese international was arrested together with another unidentified man. Police say the complainant was sexually assaulted in a penthouse suite in central London on the 2nd of October. Ronaldo arrived at Old Trafford 2 seasons ago. And on to rugby news, the managers of Western Province Rugby say they are not racist. The denial follows accusations that the coaching staff have based the selection of teams on race and religious beliefs. The accusations come after the team's semi-final loss in last weekend's Currie Cup against the Cheetahs. Media reports accuse Nick Mallett, who is the director of coaching for Western Province, of prejudice. They allege that he is discriminating against the loose forward, Luke Watson. This is apparently for his religious beliefs. Mr. Mallett denies this.
I've criticised a number of players for their performances. They've been Afrikaans players, white players, black and coloured players. They've been players who have Springbok reputations. They've been young players. It's part and parcel of professional sport that you have to be judged and assessed on your performance.
Now, earlier this afternoon, we had thunderstorms in Johannesburg. Simon looks at the rest of the weather patterns and your forecast for tomorrow.
Hi, good evening. We've got a cold front which is pushing up the east coast tomorrow, dragging its showers with it into KwaZulu-Natal. Isolated thunderstorms expected ahead of it up into Swaziland and beyond into the South African Lowveld, but partly cloudy to sunny weather over the rest of the Highveld. Things do clear down into the southwestern Cape. We are seeing a few showers along that southern Cape coast. Those will clear during the day, but gale force westerly winds and rough seas expected. Those are going to ease to the east as that front moves on. Let's have a look at our temperatures, remaining fairly cool over that western interior overnight. Mild along the south coast, low teens at most stations. Quite warm in KwaZulu-Natal ahead of that front, 19 for Durban, 20 expected for Richards Bay. And then tomorrow we're seeing the impact of that front as cool weather wells in behind it, low 20s for the Eastern Cape, just 19 expected for PE. Nice and hot up in the northeast, 33 the high for Messina. Remaining cool down towards Cape Town, a high of just 18 degrees, low 20s further north. Have a great one. Cheers.
Thanks, Simon. We've come to the end of our bulletin. We'll see you again tomorrow with more topical news and interesting views. Remember that tomorrow is no car day. So if you don't want the risk of taking a Johannesburg taxi, you know the ones that defy all the road rules, then I think it's best you prepare those walking shoes. Until Thursday then, from the 10 o'clock news team, the crew, thank you very much. Good night.
Are you still
Still cleaning your home the way your grandmother did? It's a messy business with dust everywhere, even in the air you breathe. Introducing the revolutionary new way of cleaning your home, the Genesis from Verimark. The Genesis powerful 1200-watt motor sucks up all dirt and dust, trapping it with a unique water filtration system. This breakthrough in cleaning technology then releases clean, purified air, thus reducing allergic reactions such as hay fever and sinusitis. And all the dirt ends up in the drain. With Genesis, cleaning tiled floors takes seconds. Need a wet vac? Genesis can suck up any accident effortlessly or unblock a drain in an instant. As it's a total home cleaning system, Genesis can also deep clean your carpets, curtains and blinds. Furniture and mattresses are easily rejuvenated. Simply pour water and one of the specially developed detergents into the outer tank. This solution is pressure sprayed deep into the carpet, loosening old embedded dirt, then removed through Genesis powerful suction. The unique Genesis deep cleaning system also removes dust mites that live in your carpets, upholstery and even in your bed. The Genesis total home cleaning system comes complete with the unique water filtration system, a full range of dry vac attachments, a washable dry filter bag, a full set of deep cleaning extraction tools, a drain unblocker, a handy storage caddy and an instruction booklet. Genesis also has a 3-year quality guarantee and is supported by a national service centre network. A total home cleaning system of this quality and versatility could easily cost as much as 6,000 Rand. But call Verimark on 0860 005 005 and you can get the Genesis for the unbelievable price of just 3,999 Rand or as little as 263 Rand a month. And if you call right now, we'll include 4 bottles of power cleaning detergent worth 300 Rand absolutely free. Don't delay. Call 0860 005 005 now to place your order or for more information or a no-obligation demonstration in the comfort of your own home.
Tomorrow on 3. At 7:30, stylish fashions in top billing. Then at 8:31, Catherine is attacked in CSI. And at 9:30, Lionel pretends to be a doctor in Sorted. Incomparable entertainment on 3.
A little earlier tomorrow, with the whole of America seemingly fixating on the question, tomorrow Oprah asks how much weight has her dear old friend Kirstie Alley actually lost. The goal was to lose 70 pounds. We get the encouraging results, all the temptations, the highs and the lows, along with an update on her love life. All coinciding with the release of her new book, How to Lose Your Ass and Regain Your Life by Kirstie Alley. That's tomorrow at 5:15. In the same vein, Oprah's now joined by Bob Green, author of the incredibly successful Total Body Makeover. Great nights. Cheers.
All right, here we go, guys. Oprah's on the way.
All new. Do not go through another summer fat. 39 pounds, 27 pounds.
My weight loss secrets.
This is what I do. Favorite snacks? This is delicious.
Beat your chocolate cravings, portion sizes, low carbs, low fat. What to do?
The plan for fab abs.
If you need to lose weight and you know who you are.
People say, oh, I tried everything. No, you really didn't.
This is the show for you. Next.